Okay, it is 5 o'clock. Can we go live?
Just one moment.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, we are live.
Terrific. At 5:01, I'm calling to order the Finance Committee for today, Monday, December 8th. If we could get a roll call, please.
Certainly, Madam Chair. Counselor Cassett? Here. Counselor Lindell? Counselor Faulkner?
I believe she's online.
Madam Chair, we do see her online.
Counselor Faulkner, can you hear us? There she is.
I'm here.
Thank you.
Counselor Lee Garcia?
He is not here, so he's excused
He's
till he
on
gets
his
here.
way.
I think, yeah, I'm sure he's on his way, so he's excused till he gets here.
And Chair Romero Worth.
I am here.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Okay, terrific. Tonight's agenda, do we have any changes from staff?
Madam Chair, there are no changes from staff this evening.
All right, if there are no changes from the committee, can I get a motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Because we have a counselor online, we're going to have to do a roll call.
Counselor Cassett? Yes. Counselor Lindell? Counselor Faulkner?
Yes.
I see Counselor Garcia walking in.
Here. Yes.
Chair Romero Worth.
Yes.
And that motion passes.
All right, terrific. We are on to approval of the consent agenda. We do have a few items taken off. I believe there are 4. Item D, item M, item P, and there must be one other. Item HH. And is there anything else the committee wants to hear tonight? And if not, is there a motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as amended. We're going to need a roll call.
Counselor Cassett? Yes. Counselor Lindell? Counselor Faulkner?
Yes.
Counselor Garcia?
Yes.
Chair Romero Worth?
Yes,
And that motion passes.
perfect. And now we are on to presentations, and I believe we have a finance department staff recognition. And we have Director Oster.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I am so delighted this evening to recognize Ashley Chavez. Ashley, can you come down to the front? Thank you. And we have some guests here as well with Ashley this evening. Thank you so much to everyone who came to support Ashley. Like I said, it is really, really a huge honor and a pleasure to recognize Ashley this evening. Ashley began her career with the City of Santa Fe in January 2020 as a payroll employee, where she built a strong understanding of financial operations. Since then, she has grown within the organization and was promoted to accounting supervisor in June 2024, taking on greater responsibilities and contributing to key departmental improvements. Over the past year, she has supported the implementation of new invoice processes to enhance economic development efforts. Since October, she has also been responsible for documenting and tracking all incoming excise tax wires to ensure accuracy, transparency, and compliance. She is extremely appreciative of the support she's received from the city finance family throughout this journey. And outside of work, Ashley enjoys traveling, golfing, spending time in the mountains, and most importantly, being with family and friends. So in addition to that, I would like to add a few other things about Ashley. She mentioned briefly in her bio her work on invoicing. That was specifically around leased property, the city's leased property, which has been something that we've really struggled with. And Ashley has been instrumental in getting us to a place where we know what our tenants owe us and we know what they're paying us, and we can figure out if there's a difference, and then we can work with the asset development group to collect any amounts that are owed and work with our tenants to ensure that rent is being paid on leased property timely. So that's been huge, and it was a big lift. Ashley has worked on that for months and months, getting accounts set up for each of our lessors in the Munis system, creating invoices so we can bill them for rent, and then apply their payments against those invoices so that we can track how much they've owed and how much they've paid. So that's really been an area where we've struggled in the past, and Ashley has put in a lot of really hard work to get us into a much better place with leases. I know that's something we've discussed here in finance before, so I was excited to share that with you all. In addition, Ashley's position was originally created for the excise tax for high-end home sales. Because of the litigation around the excise tax, Ashley was able to work on some other projects, including lease accounting. And when the excise tax went into effect back on October 27th, Ashley made a very quick and very graceful pivot to shift gears to focusing on the excise tax implementation. So that is one of Ashley's primary responsibilities now as the administrator for finance of the excise tax. And as she mentioned in her bio, we've started to receive some payments, which is very exciting. We're also starting to receive tax returns. There are many, many questions running a huge spectrum from people who may not like the tax to people who have some complicated situations and really are seeking guidance. And Ashley has been responding to all of those and getting additional information where needed to ensure that we have a smooth rollout of the excise tax. And I just have to say, it gives me so much peace of mind knowing that we have Ashley in charge of this new program. She is so capable, and she's just the perfect person to be leading this from the finance side for the city. So I'm really delighted to have Ashley in this role as we were implementing the excise tax. In addition to those two huge projects, Ashley has been an instrumental part of our planning committee throughout the last 3 years, but in particular, I've been thinking of over the last year. We started off our year in finance 2025 with a New Year's kickoff, which Ashley was really involved in helping to plan, putting together wonderful gifts that were given to each employee, planning an amazing event, fabulous food. And then that's continued throughout the whole year. We had an amazing retreat in September. Ashley, this is just an example of what a dedicated and amazing employee that she is. She came in early on a day that she was scheduled to be off to help us set up for the retreat and made it a huge success. So that was amazing. And then most recently, last Friday, we had our Fleetsgiving celebration over at Fleet, our Fleet division offices. And Ashley was instrumental in planning that event and helping to cook food for the event, just bringing us together. Ashley's role in the planning committee has really been to help plan wonderful events that bring the finance staff together. And the growth in the team over the last year has just been tremendous. So I really wanted to celebrate that as well and thank Ashley for all of her hard work. I could go on, but as I'm sure you can tell, Ashley is really exceptional. So I want to wrap up there and just say thank you so much, Ashley, for everything that you're doing for the finance committee and for the finance department, city as a whole. I really appreciate it, and I'm so grateful you're part of this team. So with that, it is my honor to present you with this certificate of appreciation, which says the following award is given to Ashley B. Chavez. This certificate is given to Ashley B. Chavez in appreciation for performance, service, and dedication to the City of Santa Fe Finance Department. Thank you so much, Ashley.
Yeah, you're not required to speak, but I just want to say thank you very much. Sounds like you've been doing some really critical work, and wonderful to have had somebody available to take on some of the projects that you've been able to do for the city. So thank you. Really appreciate all that work. Okay, I think we have another staff recognition, don't we?
Yes, Madam Chair, if I may interject, we have an additional Finance Department staff recognition this evening. If I can go ahead and take the stand. Okay, the City of Santa Fe and the Finance Department would like to recognize Emily Oster, Finance Department Director. Sorry, I've been so secretive all day, but um, this, the City of Santa Fe and the Finance Department would like to recognize Emily Oster, Finance Department Director. Since stepping into the role of the Finance Director in September of 2022, Emily Oster has played a pivotal role in stabilizing and strengthening the City of Santa Fe's finances. Through her leadership, the city has become current on its audits, secured clean audit opinions, and significantly reduced the number of audit findings, reflecting major improvements in internal controls and financial reporting. She has devoted countless hours to addressing long-standing financial challenges, modernizing systems, and supporting departments across the city with timely, accurate financial information. Her professionalism, dedication, and integrity have made a lasting impact on the city's fiscal health and on the colleagues who have had the privilege of working with her. Emily's leadership has also left a deep personal impact on the finance team. She leads with respect, patience, and humility, taking the time to listen, ask thoughtful questions, and ensure that every voice at the table is heard. She consistently made team members feel valued and included, recognizing the unique strengths of each person and drawing out their ideas to improve processes, solve problems, and better serve the public. This collaborative and empowering style has not only strengthened the city's finance department, but has also built a strong, confident team that will continue her legacy of excellence forward. Emily will be greatly missed, and the finance team, as well as the others within city leadership, extends its deep gratitude for her service, her leadership, and her unwavering commitment to the constituents and employees of Santa Fe. And with that, I would like to have the honor to present you with a Finance Department certificate for recognition. And it says, the certificate is given to Emily K. Oster in appreciation for performance, service, and dedication to the City of Santa Fe Finance Department.
Armenia, do you have a rabbit and a hat too?
I have everything. We really wanted to give you this tonight because you are the one who started the appreciation recognition that we've done over the past 2 years, and we thought it was just right and to end it with you and for 2025 and your time with the city. So thank you for everything.
Complete surprise and a wonderful one. And this certificate means so much to me. Recognition. I don't know what to say. I'm gonna miss you all. So thank you so much for the opportunity to be a part of this group. I am so grateful. It's really, thank you.
Good job, Armenia. You made Emily speechless. I think that's the first time that's ever happened.
Pretty hard. Oh. Thank you, everyone. Wow, this is amazing.
And yeah, it looks like you have a few members of the finance team. If you want to do a group photo, we could do that real
We can
quick.
take it. We actually have a great vantage point from here.
Yeah, come on down, guys. Yeah, and the babies in the back are adorable. Do you want us to take that? I'll take the picture.
Oh, we want one with the chair of finance in there, please.
Okay, I know we could all go on about Emily and, but we will, I don't know, we'll go on later, I guess. Because you really have built an incredible team and done some extraordinary work while you were here. And, we are very lucky that, you came when you did and helped us. So, okay, where are we? Recognition of departing finance committee meetings. Oh, it just keeps coming. Okay.
Well, I think it's a great segue because the things that I feel most proud of about the city of Santa Fe and my time here are the people. And we would not have been able to accomplish what we've accomplished without the support of the finance committee. So with that, the staff really wanted to recognize our council members, our finance committee members that are going to be leaving us after this meeting. We're going to miss you so much. Councilor Romero Worth, your leadership on the committee has been incredible. You've gotten us through some difficult times. You've led us through 6 budget cycles. 5? Oh, 4 budget cycles, which is no small feat, as you all know. Hours and hours of budget hearings, many difficult decisions involved in crafting our budget. You've led us through countless hours of regular finance committee meetings and modeled such incredible leadership for us and really made it possible for us to do work at the staff level to improve the financial operations of the city. So we just wanted to thank you very much and present you with this certificate of appreciation for performance, service, and dedication to the City of Santa Fe Finance Department and the Finance Committee. And Councilor Lindell, I think you're our longest serving member of the Finance Committee. And whenever we've had a question about, how was that handled in the past or what's the history on that issue, you've been able to step in and advise us, and you've advised us of pitfalls and challenges that have come up in the past. You've given us so much good advice. And when times were tough, you gave us so much encouragement and support. And that has just been so meaningful to me and to the entire finance committee, or the entire finance department team, that we knew that you all, the entire finance committee, had our backs, but especially you, Councilor Lindell, have spoken up on behalf of staff when times have been especially tough, and we really appreciate that. It means so much to us. We wanted to say thank you and recognize your years of service. Is it 12 years that you've been on the finance committee? Wow, my goodness, that must be a record. That's a long, that is incredible dedication. Thank you so much, Councilor Lindell. And it is my pleasure. Oh, hello. Yeah, we should have. So this certificate is presented to Councilor Lindell in appreciation for performance, service, and dedication to the City of Santa Fe Finance Department and the Finance Committee. Thank you so much, counselors. We really could not have done it without you, and we're going to miss you terribly. We wish you the very best with whatever comes in 2026.
Thank you. Okay, those are all important. Recognitions, staff, our leader, Counselor Lindell's 12 years. Wow. Okay, we are now going on to our presentation. I'm very excited about this. We have with us tonight Andrea Phillips and Rod Gould to talk about the proposed goals, objectives, and key performance indicators for FY26. And we're not going to get into the, like we did the other night, go over the substance of it, but really take this opportunity to better understand how these can be used as a tool and how they're going to help the next governing body as they dive into the work of the city. And so thank you for being here tonight, and I'll let you add anything I've forgotten in that introduction. Yeah, make sure that's on.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, thank you for a little time. Deputy City Manager Phillips and I are happy to be here tonight to talk a little bit more about the goals, objectives, and key performance indicators that we ran through really rapidly a month ago. And in one of her check-ins with the finance department a few weeks ago, the chair asked Emily Oster and us to, what now? What do we do with these things? Where do we go from here with the goals and objectives? So Andrea and I would like to answer those questions tonight. I'm going to talk about it at a high level, and then she's going to illustrate how you might use these goals and objectives in your oversight capacity as the elected leaders of our fair city. So first of all, please understand that this was a major step for our organization. Up to now, when you approved budgets, and you've approved many of them, it was largely up to the department heads and city managers to decide how to use those funds and for the general purpose of their mission statements for each department. But there wasn't a lot of accountability, and there was no checking back. By setting these markers, which are our goals and objectives and KPIs, we're stating to you and to the world what we intend to do with the precious taxpayer dollars that you have allocated to us. And we're willing to be held accountable for doing so. Now, this is a big step for us as an organization in professionalism and accountability. First of all, the way that they're going to be used is largely internally, which will not be seen by the public. But in each case, the department directors worked with their key division heads and sometimes their supervisors to devise these key goals, objectives, and KPIs for the current fiscal year to be able to be specific about what they intended to accomplish. And they've worked through that process, and they distributed those goals and objectives to the various divisions and then to the work units. So the supervisor of each work unit knows what he or she is responsible for getting the work unit or crew to be doing. They intend report to the division head about how that works up to what the division is expected to do. And then the division head reports to the department head how they're working against the goals and objectives for the department itself. And then the department head is to meet with the city manager or deputy city manager every couple of weeks to talk about where are we against our goals and objectives, and are we on budget and on schedule? Because those are the measures of whether or not we're effective in management. And then it gets to you, because quarterly we will provide reports back to the governing body about where every department head is against the goals and objectives that were made in the future as part of the budget process. Are we on time? Are we ahead of schedule? Are we behind? Have we not gotten started on something? What has changed? So in your oversight role as the elected leaders of this town, you will have real-time information about where we are and what's working and what's not. We will be much more clear about what is happening, and the level of service in each department should be pretty clear once these goals and objectives become institutionalized. And you'll get used to hearing about them, and you'll see that some departments are always right there and on top of things. Others are struggling a little bit. There may be explanations for it. It gives us the opportunity for course correction and for learning. We are at the bottom line of a learning organization. We will get better by setting these goals and objectives and KPIs, and you will be part of that oversight process. Last point, there's a key aspect of this that has to do with budgets. Because at budget time, each of the departments will be coming forward, making a budget request to you with the goals and objectives tied to it. So you'll see what the department is committing to accomplish with their budgetary allotment, and it'll be clear what they're going to do, and it should be also clear what they're not going to be able to do. So we're setting the bar about what is possible with the budget allocations that we're seeking. If you're not happy with the level of service in a department, then it should precipitate a conversation with the department director about what was necessary to raise the level of service to what is something more acceptable. What's the dollar figure? What's the staffing component? That kind of thing. And therefore, what are the trade-offs? If you have to sacrifice someplace else or you have to find another funding source, how do we accomplish the higher level? So I think it will add a greater dimension of substance to some of the budget discussions that you will be having in the next budget round. Now, I'd like to turn it over to Deputy City Manager Phillips to give you a real-life example of how you might use such goals, objectives, and KPIs. Thank you.
And just really quick, are we going to have slides or you're just going to talk? Okay,
Yeah, I do have,
a couple slides, okay.
yes, thank you, Chair Romero Worth. I do have a couple of slides, very basic, just to show you an example of how we might put this into practice. And so if you could advance, and I did provide handouts, just so you could, of the same information that you have in front of you. So I did pick the example of level of service in parks maintenance because there's a lot to this particular goal and KPI. So this, as you know, Parks Division is under Public Works. They presented to you their overall departmental goals. And the way that they had presented to you is that they have overarching goals for the entire department that trickle down into the operations of each of the divisions. So for this example, we're using Parks Maintenance, and we're using the overall departmental goal of operating, maintaining, and improving civic infrastructure for community safety and satisfaction. The goal within the Parks Division that Melissa McDonald had set out is to increase our level of service in parks and medians by implementing strategic best management practices, or BMPs are sometimes called, that are aligned with priority service levels. And the KPI or objective that she wanted to put out there is that they wanted to do a stretch goal of moving from a level of service overall 3 to a 2.5 for 50% of the parks and median. So on this next page in your handout and on the next slide, if you could show that. Thank you. So this is the industry standards that define the service level. So 5 is actually the worst, 1 is best. And we're currently at a 3 overall between all of our 77 parks, and I don't know how many medians we have throughout the city. So we are at an overall average level of 3. This is objective criteria that talks about how frequently we mow or check the trash or rake the playground and all of those various tasks. And so the frequency of those items, as well as what types of regular maintenance operations that the city staff engage in, is all laid out here. So in talking with Melissa, she's very excited about this whole system and really is excited about reporting this because she has institutionalized this within her division. To the fact that the crew goes out and tracks all of the parks and assesses them weekly. And then they do a quarterly evaluation with the park superintendent and manager, and then make decisions about where they need to get more park hours in terms of labor into for the crews into those different parks and areas. So her goal for this year is to increase that service level to 2.5, which may not sound like that much, but when you look at that over the entire system of all of the facilities that we're trying to maintain, by putting additional funding into that vegetation management and some of those other areas, it has helped to address the level of service overall. So if you can go to the next slide, Emily. This is just kind of some high level ways that you can use this. And Rod already spoke to some of this at a high level. So first of all, we're utilizing best practices from what other cities do in terms of regular parks maintenance. So this is a check off type of list of all of the things that we're doing to maintain those facilities on a regular basis. We're putting that into a system and then creating an understanding throughout the entire division of what we're trying to do in each of those areas and how often. So we have a stated goal where everyone in that department and the community now, since we're reporting these publicly and to elected officials, we have put a stake in the ground and said, this is what our goal is. This is our objective for this fiscal year. Everyone knows what we're striving for then. It's a systematic review of the parks and median condition that they have institutionalized throughout their operations. As I mentioned, they're doing the weekly and quarterly tracking. And then we're reporting that out to you all and to the community. So they're using that internally to drive operational success and for conversations with our policymakers. We're also going to use it potentially around budget discussion. So going into FY27, if one of the goals of the governing body is to improve our standard of care and our level of service, and we want to move, say, from a 2.5 to a 2 for all of our parks, what does that look like? What additional resources, crews, labor hours do we need to affect that type of change that the community will see? So those are the kind of strategic discussions that they're already having on a staff level and that we're really excited to have with the elected officials as we move forward. So that's just one example of how we can utilize this information. And I know it was a lot that we presented to you. I think we have over 600 goals and objectives. And so as we go forward, some of these are going to change. We might refine them. Some of them might come off the list, but I think it's going to help us really demonstrate both internally and externally what we are here for. What is the service that we are providing? We're defining it, and we're including our budget in our budgetary conversations. We're bringing this information in, and I'm hoping to put this information not only in quarterly reports, but also implement it into our annual budget process and our budget document. So happy to answer any questions that you have.
Great. And let's just take the slide down, if that's the last one, and that way we can see you, which I think is important. And then I just want to make clear that that budget document that if you could show us, that we went over with that, yeah, that one. Okay, that looks, oh, no, not the budget, the one that Rod's got there, but we can't see Rod. So this was the budget that we went, there we go. This was the budget that we went over, or I'm sorry, I'm using the wrong terms. This is the notebook on goals, objectives, and KPIs that we spent some time with as the governing body. I guess it was at our last meeting. And I just want to, I guess, underscore that those were developed with the idea of things that could be done with the remaining of FY26 budget allocation, correct?
Yes, thank you. So the goals are the highest level of what we have asked the departments to define. Those goals may continue year over year, and they're supposed to be higher level. The objectives are what we have put a stake in the ground and said, this is what we can do in this fiscal year with the resources that we have available.
Okay, and I just want to be clear that we're in FY26, and the budget cycle that the new governing body will be developing a budget for is FY27. Just sometimes I think we aren't very clear about where we are and what we're doing, and we're about halfway through this current fiscal year FY26.
That's absolutely correct. And I'd just like to remind the council that on January 23rd, the new governing body will hold a special meeting. And at that meeting, you'll get a report out on where we are halfway through the fiscal year on the current goals, objectives, and KPIs, as well as a report from finance about where we stand financially. And then for the first time, the council, the governing body together will decide what are your overarching goals as a governing body for the next few years, but more importantly, what are your priorities for the coming budget? the 26-27 budget. And that will start the budget process for the year. That will give direction to the operating departments, the administrative departments about where the council, the governing body wishes to see additional funding, emphasis, effort, and that will help shape the budget submittals that you will see later in the spring.
And I guess one other question is, so, and then we'll need to look at what resources we have to put towards those priorities. So
Absolutely.
they, to your point, that they may take more than 1 year to achieve some of those objectives. And some things we may not have the resources to completely finish, correct?
Yes, the objectives generally are focused within a 12-month period. The goals can overarch into 3 or 4 years, as the deputy city manager indicated, but the objectives are what we think we can do within a fiscal year with the allocations that we receive.
And then where does the KPI fit? Is that
The KPIs add to and complement the objectives.
objectives? Okay,
They're
so
what
key,
we're tracking on repetitive services, so you can get a sense of the volume and the velocity of the services in each department.
okay, and for the listening public, KPIs, key performance indicators.
Correct.
And with regard to parks, a key performance indicator would be such things as how many medians get certain level, or can you just,
The one that was developed for this one specifically is our level of service. And so they wanted to have a target of 50% of those parks and medians overall being a level of service in aggregate at 2.5 or better.
so that's the KPI? Okay, and then the objective is,
Yeah, the objective there was just to increase the level of service in the
Okay.
parks and medians.
okay, and then the goal was operate, maintain, and improve civic infrastructure for community safety and satisfaction.
And that's a departmental wide goal that
Right.
it filters down to all the.
Right, and so so then you go down from there, what specifically Parks is doing with regard to that overarching goal. Okay, I did that backwards, but you did it forward at the beginning, so hopefully we're fluid. All right, questions from the committee? I really appreciate just some further explanation about this. It was a lot the other night. This is a new tool. I know it's going to get talked about more and refined more, but I think it's important to better understand what it is we're doing with this new way of looking at things. Counselor Lindell.
Thank you, Chair. Just one quick question. You said the goal was 2.5?
Yeah, so the overall goal is to improve the level of service, but Melissa McDonald has put a stake in the ground and said that she wants to try to hit 50% of those parks and medians at a level of service of 2.5 or better in aggregate. Now, some facilities like the golf course are probably going to be considered a level 1, which is your best, right? They're getting the highest level of service. We have a dedicated crew there. We've got funding that comes in to help support that operation. Now, an open space or maybe a lesser utilized park, maybe a 3, 4, or 5. Overall, Melissa has said that we are an average of 3. She wants to try to get at least half of those to a 2.5.
I just wondered, so it's the director that went ahead, that sets that goal? Or is there
Yes.
collaboration with more than one person, or is one person saying, this is what we're going to do?
Right. And thank you for the question, Counselor Lindell, and Chair Romero Worth. Yeah, this is an evolving conversation, and I think it's going to be something that will refine over time. So in talking with Melissa, she was comfortable putting forward this stretch goal, knowing that there was some additional one-time funding that was provided for this fiscal year for vegetation management. She's also been doing a workload analysis and really taking a look at the work orders and things that come up, kind of special projects and things like that, that she has a crew that can go and take care of that so that our regular maintenance operations can continue at a more robust rate. So I think this is really helping to generate better management level conversations with her and her staff. And she said that all of the staff is cued into the goals, objectives, and KPIs. And so this is something that has been institutionalized throughout all levels of the Parks Maintenance Division, which is pretty exciting.
Counselor Faulkner?
Yeah, I just would like to commend Rod and Andrea. This is something that I have been harping on since I got elected. We can't function as an organization if we don't have benchmarks and deliverables and expectations that will perform to some higher standard than we have been performing to date. I am really excited about this, and I think sometimes organizations view accountability as a punitive measure, or often members of the organization that are being held accountable perceive accountability as a punitive measure, when in fact it's just a way of helping people realize their potential and to help the organization become a better organization. So it doesn't have to be a punitive process. I think if we all look at it as a positive thing as leaders, then we can kind of guide the organization forward, and in that this process is a good thing for everyone involved. And most importantly, it's a good thing for our constituents. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah, and I guess I think that's a great point, Counselor, and really speaks to, I think, what Counselor Lindell was exploring, which is that these measurements are collaborative, that we are working collaboratively to establish them so that there's buy-in to them, and that the governing body is seeing them as the right places to be focusing energy as well. So in that, we're sort of all in this together. And excellent point that this isn't meant to be I gotcha, you didn't get there, but to create a better understanding of what it is we're trying to do, what resources we have to get us there, and then, why or why not we actually do achieve some of this stuff. There will be good reasons why some things don't happen, and they hopefully will give us learning for how to do better, and that's good for all of us. So I agree. Anything else from the committee?
Just one more thing, Madam Chair, quickly.
Yes, Councilor Faulkner.
I also think that this is an opportunity. We know how hard staff works, and sometimes as leadership, we may not give them everything they need because we don't know exactly everything they need. And a process like this will help us identify gaps and opportunities to really get staff resources and to help staff kind of achieve, some really great goals. And then we can celebrate all the things we've learned, even if they appear to be scary and negative. They're not really. We need to look at this as an opportunity to say, like, hey, here's some gaps. We found these gaps because we employed this process. And so it's also an opportunity to help staff and to get them the resources they need.
Okay, I don't think we have anything else from the committee. Thank you both for being here tonight and talking a little bit more about this new concept, new tool, and its potential. Really appreciate it. Thank you. All right, we are going to go on to the consent agenda. The first item that was pulled off was item D, request for approval of a budget amendment resolution, or a BAR, to allocate a little over $3 million, $3,070,059 from prior year FY 2025 general fund balances to establish budget authority for transfers to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund discussed in prior year's budget narrative. Boy, that's a mouthful. And I pulled this item because I think there's some interesting points that I want to make sure we pull out of the memo that is attached and help the committee, the governing body, the public understand what's happening here and what it means and what we've learned, and just kind of where we are as we move forward with this fund. And I don't know, Director Oster, do you want to maybe just start with a little bit of kind of context setting, and then, I may have some questions. The Finance Committee may have some questions, and we also have our very capable folks from the Affordable Housing Office with us to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair and members of the Finance Committee for the opportunity to speak tonight about this proposed bar. There is a lot of history here, so I appreciate the opportunity to introduce this and explain why we were bringing this bar forward for consideration by the governing body. And I'm joined by Elisa Montoya, our Community Development Department Director, and Fabiola Chavez, our Affordable Housing Department Director. Some may be aware already of the city's Affordable Housing Trust Fund. It was created by ordinance in 2007. And since the inception of Munis, and maybe going back further than that, the city has accounted for the activity of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund in a larger fund called the Community Development Fund that included other things in addition to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. It was done in a way that we could identify the specific activity of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund within the Community Development Fund, but it wasn't itself a separate fund from the accounting perspective, and it wasn't presented in our financial statements as a separate fund. So that is something that probably should have been changed in the past, but we are in the process of changing that now. In FY25, the Finance Department and the Office of Affordable Housing undertook a project to separate the activity of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund from other transactions reported in the Community Development Fund and report that AHTF, Affordable Housing Trust Fund activity in a separate fund in our financial statements for the year ended June 30th of 2025. Our accounting officer, Matt Bonifer, has been working on this project for most of calendar year 2025, working closely with the affordable housing team to compare records and make sure that we identify all of the activity in the Community Development Fund that is attributable to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, so that when we pull that out, we have a complete accounting of everything in the new fund. So we did complete that effort. Matt Bonifer completed that effort to reconcile that prior year activity. And in the process of doing that, we identified the transfers, the actual transfers that were transferred into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And it was noted that it was different than what some had expected those transfers to be. In prior year budget books, there was an amount of $3 million per year, totaling 16.5 million going back to FY21. So if you have the materials for the meeting here in front of you, or for those that are online, if you're looking in Civic Clerk at the documents for this agenda item, you can see that over the years, the city had allocated or invested a total of $16.5 million in the budget book into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And it's really important to note that that amount was available to be awarded out through the Community Development Grant Fund process, through the Community Development Commission grant award process. And so those grant awards were made, the budget was there, the grant awards were made, but at the end of each of those fiscal years, the actual transfers into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund were made in the amount that the fund needed to cover its expenditures, not the full 3 million. Sometimes the expenditures came in below the amount that was budgeted and awarded. So the way that that unfolds is that Community Development Commission recommends grant awards totaling $3 million. Those awards are made to community partner organizations, the recipients of the grants. And sometimes the projects take longer than expected, and all of the expenditures aren't incurred within that same grant cycle. And sometimes the projects, don't incur as much as they expected, or expenditures come in less than the total amount of the grant. So that happened in some of the prior fiscal years, FY22, FY23, and FY24. And as a result, the transfers into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund were less than the $3 million a year. And again, that was because the actual expenditures of the fund were less than the full $3 million a year. So that was identified through the process of reconciling and separating out the Affordable Housing Trust Fund activity from the rest of the things in the Community Development Fund. As we proceeded through that process, we decided that it was important to identify outstanding obligations of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. What are those contracts that were still valid and still in effect that could still be drawn down on by those grant recipients? And we identified that there were 3 of those contracts still outstanding, totaling $1.32 million. 2 were FY24 awards and 1 was an FY22 award that had been extended. So the fund needed to have enough money to cover those prior year award obligations. In addition to that, the fund is in the process of making new awards. On the agendas this week are 4 new awards for this funding cycle for FY26 that were recommended by the Community Development Community Development Commission, totaling $3.675 million. So if you take a look at it, attachment B, it demonstrates in numbers what I've been walking through in words. So this is the reconciliation that our accounting officer prepared that rolls forward the activity in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, starting with beginning balances, taking into consideration revenues into the fund, which consist primarily of fee and lieu, infrastructure loan payments, and sales of land. Then we have expenses that are paid out primarily through Affordable Housing Trust Fund grants recommended by the Community Development Commission. And then we have transfers, and those were part of what was included in the annual budget for each year. So if you continue to look at attachment B, we've arrived at an unaudited balance as of mid-November of $2.35 million in the current year, FY26, in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Now, that doesn't take into account those prior year contracts that are still valid. So those are totaling $1.3 million. We know that those obligations are valid, those contracts are still in effect, and those grantees are out there spending money. So we want to make sure that we have enough money to pay them for those prior year obligations. The next item shown on the analysis is the proposed bar that's before you this evening of $3,070,059. What that would do, if approved, is bring the total actual transfers into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund up to $16.5 million, which was the total amount that was discussed as being invested and allocated into the budget, into the fund, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, in the prior year budgets. The next item is a reimbursement from the state for a grant. We received a $2 million grant from a program called CASA Connections. We passed that through to the Housing Authority for a project that they're doing to increase supply of affordable housing, and we are awaiting reimbursement from the state in the amount of $2 million. The next item is $3.675 million of grant expenditures for the current year's awards. And then after that, we get down into budgeted revenues and estimated revenues. So we know that in the FY26 budget, we estimated that we would collect $600,000 of fee in lieu. We haven't yet collected that amount, but that was what we budgeted. So if you look, the top half of the chart in attachment B is what's actually happened. And then the bottom half below the bold line for FY26, starting with those unexpired prior year contracts, these are all things that haven't happened yet, but that we're projecting will occur in FY26. So we have budgeted revenues from fee and lieu in the amount of $600,000, infrastructure loan payment of $252,000, and land sales of $275,000. The last estimated or projected item is our estimate of what we hope to collect from the excise tax for on high-end home sales for affordable housing. We estimated that at $1.5 million for the remainder of FY '26. We really don't know exactly what to expect yet because that is a brand new tax that just went into effect. But we know we're going to collect something from the excise tax for affordable housing, but we don't know exactly what that's going to be yet. So based on all of these things that we think may happen during the fiscal year, we've arrived at a projected unaudited balance at the end of the current fiscal year as of June 30th, 2026 of about $5 million in this fund. I want to emphasize that that does not mean there's $5 million in this fund now. There is not. There is $2.3 million in the fund as of November 12th. That's our unaudited estimate as of November 12th is 2.3 million. Everything below that 2.3 million number is estimates based on activity that we believe may occur in the remainder of FY '26. So, Madam Chair, returning back to the purpose of this bar, as we were reconciling the activity in the Community Development Fund and pulling out the Affordable Housing Trust Fund activity to separate it out into its own fund, we identified that the amount that was allocated or invested in each year's budget didn't match the amount that was actually transferred into the fund each year. And we wanted to bring that to the attention of those charged with governance of the governing body and let you know that in order to bring those two numbers into alignment, the additional transfer of $3,070,059 into the fund is what would be needed. And with that, Madam Chair, I know I've done a lot of talking, so I will stand for questions.
Okay, and I just want to say thank you for all this work. Thank you to Matt Bonifer. Thank you to your team. This is, I think something many of us have been very interested in is the accounting of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund money. And this is the information we've all been seeking. So it also comes, I think, at a really critical time as to have this dedicated fund and this dedicated accounting as we start to see the revenues from the excise tax. And, if the projections hold, we could see a substantial amount of money in there to begin to employ for the great need in this community, which is affordable housing assistance in all of its forms, whether it's built or, down payment assistance or rental assistance. So it comes at a really critical time. I do want to, a couple things I want to emphasize, and then I see Councilor Faulkner, your hand's up. I'm sure there are other councilors up here on the dais who have questions, because again, this is very important. So the $3 million bar, the $3,070,059, is essentially budget authority, correct? So if we don't do that, you can't pull money down or actually spend money because this budget authority is really important to our ability to use the money in the fund. Can you just speak to that briefly? I think it's worth underscoring.
Certainly, Madam Chair. That's a very good point. So when we budget for one fiscal year at a time, and the governing body provides authority for spending for that fiscal year. So looking at the prior year amounts that were budgeted as the maximum amount that could be transferred into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, that authority to transfer those funds ended when those fiscal years ended. So what this bar would do is establish that authority in the current year in FY '26 that would allow us to make that transfer now. So even though there was budget authority in the previous years to make additional transfers, that authority no longer exists because those years ended.
Okay. And I think the other piece that maybe is really important to underscore is this idea that what you're seeing here in the amount that we budgeted in the budget book and then the amount that was actually transferred is essentially like a reimbursement thing, right? So we don't, there was a misunderstanding, I think, and we, you know, governing body said, we're appropriating $3 million. But what actually, and so there was budget authority for that $3 million. The Community Development Commission was making grants of $3 million. But what was actually reflected in our books was only the amount of money that was being spent, or that that the nonprofits were coming back and saying, we want reimbursement for what we've spent here. And so that's why those numbers aren't at that 3 million level in those years, correct?
Madam Chair, that is correct. The Affordable Housing Trust Fund grants operate on a reimbursement basis. So when we give a grant of, say, $1 million, we don't give that organization $1 million up front. They have to go out and spend the money on the program and then submit reimbursement requests to us up to that total grant amount. But that takes time. So that is a very important point, is these grants are reimbursement based. So we don't give them the full amount of the award up front. They receive the award, they go out and spend the money on the program, and then they submit reimbursement requests to the city and draw down the grant funds.
And the only amount that was essentially being booked was the reimbursement, the amount that was being asked for in reimbursement.
Madam Chair, yes, that's correct. So the actual expenditures that the grantees were requesting reimbursement from the city, that is what was being recorded, and the transfers were made enough to cover that amount.
Right, and then just one more point, and then I'll open it up to the rest of the Finance Committee. Not making this bar, not giving this budget authority could make this fund, put it in a place where it doesn't have enough money to meet its obligations. And even though in our kind of planning out here, we're showing a possible balance that's significant. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Certainly, Madam Chair, absolutely. So looking again at attachment B, so everything that is above the middle of the page where the line says unaudited balance as of November 12th, 2025, everything above that is things that have already happened. So we're pretty confident about that. Everything below that in the FY26 column is projections. Those are estimates. So for example, for the prior year unexpired contracts, we know that we have outstanding unexpired contracts with the Civic Housing Authority totaling $1 million for the Country Club Apartments and the Ocate Apartments projects. What we don't know yet is what their actual expenditures are going to be. We know that we awarded them $1 million for those two projects in FY24's funding cycle, and we know that they have not yet submitted reimbursement requests to the city to get reimbursed for those amounts. But what we don't know yet is how much they're going to request reimbursement for. So what we've done here is we've included the maximum, the full remaining contract amounts that are left that they could request reimbursement for.
They can't request more than that, just to be
That's
clear.
correct, Madam Chair. They can only request up to the maximum amount of the contract, which is what they were awarded. But they can request less, and sometimes they do. Sometimes the grantees don't fully expend their awards. So Madam Chair, another example. So on the line that says amount due from NMDFA for Casa Connections external grant. So we know that we received this grant from the state for the Casa Connections program. We passed that amount through to the Civic Housing Authority for the Country Club Apartments project. That's shown up above under external grants. That is something that's already happened. We've paid them that $2 million, but we have not gotten reimbursed from the state yet for that $2 million. We know that we're going to get reimbursed by the state, but we don't know the timing of exactly when that's going to happen. I'm confident that it's going to be before June 30th, but it's possible, sometimes there's delays, there's questions, things go back and forth. It's possible that this reimbursement may not be received until July, instead of by June 30th. Another example here is fee in lieu, infrastructure loan payments, and land sales. We budgeted what we think we're going to collect in fee in lieu, infrastructure loan payments, and land sales in FY26 based on prior year activity in the fund, based on what we actually received. So for example, in FY25, we actually received $974,088.40 of fee in lieu in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. For FY26, we budgeted 600,000 in fee in lieu. We have received 0. We haven't received anything yet, but based on prior years' receipts, we think that that $600,000 budgeted amount is reasonable. But it really depends on actual activity. Fee in lieu is based on actual developments that are approved during this fiscal year. So we don't know for sure that we're going to actually collect 600,000 of fee in lieu during the current fiscal year. It's budgeted, it's our best estimate based on past activity, but it's not a guarantee. And as of now, we haven't collected any fee in lieu in the current fiscal year.
And we're halfway through the year.
Correct, Madam Chair. And this is as of November 12th. So let's say this is, 4.5 months into the fiscal year. Estimated revenue from the high-end excise tax for affordable housing is another item that we've shown here as an inflow into the fund. We know that we have collected about $60,000 into the fund from the excise tax so far. We know that we're going to collect more, but we don't really know how much more because this is a brand new tax for the city of Santa Fe. It's a brand new program for us. We don't have the benefit of having historical data to base our estimates on. And we do rely heavily on historical information when we're developing our estimates for budgeting, especially for something like a tax. So with regard to this 1.5 number, Director Chavez and I talked about what we thought was reasonable to expect in the first 8 months of the new tax as we're ramping up and the tax is being implemented. And we came up with that $1.5 million figure. But really, again, that's an estimate. We may collect more, we may collect less. We just really don't know yet because we don't have any historical data to base our estimate on. So Madam Chair, I think the things that are most important to take away from attachment B is that we know we had 2.3 million, 2.35 million in this fund. That's our unaudited balance as of November 12th, 4.5 months into FY26. That does take into account the $3 million transfer, the full $3 million that was budgeted in FY26 operating budget that has already been transferred into the fund, and that's shown there. So including that $3 million transfer that was authorized by the operating budget, we are showing a balance of 2.3 million as of mid-November. We know we have obligations. We have unexpired contracts totaling 1.3 million. So if you take that out, we're down to 1 million. We know that before you this week are contracts totaling 3.6 million to take out of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Just looking at those things alone, if none of the rest of this happened, if the bar doesn't get approved, if we didn't get the reimbursement from DFA, if we didn't get any revenue from the excise tax or fee in lieu, the fund would be in a deficit position. I don't want to raise alarm because I don't think that's likely to occur. We know we've already collected some revenue from the excise tax. We know we're likely to collect fee in lieu and infrastructure loan payments. The reimbursement from DFA for the Casa Connections grant is coming. That's just a question of timing. When do we receive it? But if we look just at what is the balance as of mid-November, what are the existing contracts outstanding that are obligations against that amount, that reduces it to about 1 million. And then we're about to approve another 3.675 million. If the governing body does not approve this bar that's before you this evening, the fund will not have enough money to cover the new grants.
Okay. I know that was long and arduous for you and probably for everybody listening, but this is really important. And I've been talking with staff and getting up to speed on this for a while. So yeah, it's a lot. I think the other thing to think about is there's some good news here. If the projections all pan out, in the second half of fiscal year 26, we are in a position to get more money out to the community. And we could issue another RFP, and the Community Development Commission could meet, and we could use this money to and get it out to the nonprofits that work in this sector. So I think that's an important point as well, to balance against what we've been painstakingly going through here. All right, I have monopolized the floor long enough. Councillor Faulkner, you've been very patient. Councillor Cassett's got her hand up. I don't know, you guys want to arm wrestle?
Counselor Faulkner, you take it.
Okay, that's good because I'm a little afraid of you, Jamie. Just kidding. One of the concerns I have is around the excise tax. I'm in full support of this initiative. I think it's great. I'm not going to vote against it. But I do have concerns about the excise tax and how much we're depending on it, and that we did not win the appeal because of the merits of the subject matter. We won the appeal because the person suing didn't have standing. So that leaves me to wonder if there'll be another lawsuit. And if that person does have standing, I'm not sure that we can count on the excise tax. So what happens if someone sues, they have standing, we lose the case? What happens to all the money we've collected?
Counselor, I think that's probably a question for the city attorney's office, and they are not here. I do know that I think the litigants had asked for a rehearing that was denied by the appellate court. I think their next stop is to appeal to the Supreme Court. I don't know. I haven't gotten a briefing recently on whether they do that. And then I think, then the question is, what do they do next? And
Yeah,
there's a lot of ifs, and we don't
That's-
have the city attorney's office here tonight to
Okay, I
help
understand, but I
understand
just want to say so the public understands this excise tax is not a slam dunk at this point. And I tend to be more conservative on issues like this, especially around if there's lawsuits involved. And my biggest concern is if we lose this case, if they appeal and we lose, or they find some other entity that has standing, I think we're putting ourselves in a precarious position to be collecting the tax in the first place. And then secondly, to be depending on it in our projections for how much money we're going to have in this fund. But I will take that up with the new city attorney.
Okay. Anything else?
Nope, that's it. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Alrighty. Counselor Cassett.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Following up on that thread, any of the dollars that are currently promised and allocated they were promised and allocated prior to the excise tax going into effect, correct?
Madam Chair and Councillor Cassett, we did not budget any estimated revenue from the excise tax in the FY26 budget, because at the time that we built the budget, the tax was not in effect.
Okay. And so that means, and that would go as well, fee in lieu, as mentioned, we haven't collected any land sales. These are all estimated potential things that we guess could happen, but potentially are not. And so that 5 million that is a projected unaudited FY26 year-end balance has not been awarded, correct?
Madam Chair, that is correct. So the amounts shown for fee in lieu, infrastructure loan payments, and land sales are budgeted based on prior years, but they're not collected yet.
Okay.
So based on prior year fee in lieu, we budgeted 600,000, but as of November 12th, we hadn't collected any fee in lieu yet.
Okay.
So Madam Chair, so there is a little bit of a difference between fee in lieu, infrastructure loan payments, and land sales, which are budgeted in the FY26 budget based
Okay.
on prior year activity, and the excise tax, which was not budgeted. We didn't budget any revenue from the excise tax because it wasn't in effect at the time that we prepared the budget.
Got it. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that distinction. I think that's important.
But it raises another thing, which I just want to bring up here, because the Community Development Commission did meet. They did make recommendations for the $3 million that we approved from the general fund. And then they added another, I think it's 600,000, it's close, six some odd.
Madam Chair,
And that's coming out of the balance that was in the fund, but prior to, it was balanced prior to November 12th, correct?
Yes.
2025. So we know we have that money. So I just want to, if in going over your packet for tonight or for Wednesday night, and you notice that the amount of money that the Community Development Commission is asking for approval is over $3 million, it's 3.6 some odd. There is money to cover that in the fund balance now without doing all this stuff past November 12th, that I just want to point that out.
Madam Chair, yes, that is correct. That additional 675,000 would come out of the balance from November 12th, prior to November 12th.
Okay. Counselor Cassett, back to you. Sorry, I hijacked your.
No, that was helpful. Thank you. I appreciate the hijack. So just so I'm clear, and I'm really pleased to see that this has happened and that this is going to be much more clear in the future. I know we've had a lot of these conversations, not just about the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, but about our budget in general, of really understanding our budget to actuals. What did we allocate? Where's the money coming from? Do we actually have it yet? Because as you mentioned, a lot of our budgeting is based on projection, especially given, our primary revenue source is GRT. And so that's us just assuming that the world is going to not be 2020 again, knock on wood. But with this change, from what I'm gathering is that there wasn't really a carryover. If from every single year, if we allocated 3 million, only 2.1 was spent, that other 0.9 million, what didn't remain within the fund, but rather was absorbed back into the community development fund. With this change, would we be able to essentially hold that money as carryover? Because, when we were budgeting, from my perspective, that was the intention. We want $3 million a year in there. That $3 million is dedicated to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund no matter what. And so this will make it easier and more stable within this fund. Am I understanding that correctly?
Madam Chair and Councilor Cassett, yes, that's a very good point. So when the Affordable Housing Trust Fund activity was commingled in the Community Development Fund, any excess amount would have been accumulated in the fund balance for the fund as a whole, not specifically the affordable housing piece, but the fund as a whole. Under the new model where we're establishing a separate fund for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, that excess amount will be accumulated in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. So if the total amount that is transferred into the fund exceeds the expenditures, that'll be accumulated as part of the balance of the fund that's carried forward. And it'll be much easier to track it as a separate fund than it was when it was commingled with other activity in the community development.
Okay, wonderful. I'm happy to hear that. And then what we are doing here tonight is essentially saying, hey, we're going to make sure that all this money that has been allocated since 2021, that it is in fact going to affordable housing, even if in the past some of it had been kind of commingled, as you said. But now we're really making sure we're pulling it all out. So all those dollars that we said we wanted these to go to affordable housing since 21 are going to continue to go to affordable housing.
Madam Chair and Councillor Cassett, yes, and I think that that does raise a good point. The difference between what was allocated and what was actually transferred didn't go into the Community Development Fund. It actually remained in the general fund.
Okay, so that brought me to my next question around our $3 million allocated. We know that we have other funding sources besides the general fund. Does that mean, like I was, thought was happening? We had $3 million from the general fund that was dedicated. In addition, all of these other sources, or was it all these other sources and then from the general fund, we put in whatever amount was needed to make up $3 million?
Madam Chair and Councillor Cassett, so in FY22, FY23, and FY24, the amount that was actually transferred into the fund was what was needed to bring it to zero, so that, the total inflows into the fund would equal the total outflows of the fund. And in those years, the amount that was needed was less than 3 million.
Okay,
That's why those actual transfers were less, even though the amount that was allocated in the budget was higher. So the transfers could have been more, but they were done only to bring the fund to zero, not to accumulate additional resources in the fund.
okay,
I
and we
think-
are correct.
I think there's another piece here which is coming to, is that we put $3 million from we as a governing body authorized $3 million from the general fund into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. The Community Development Commission made grant recommendations for that $3 million. And what you're seeing here in these years, 22, 23, 24, correct?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Those, because those grants weren't fully spent or fully asked for reimbursement, that money didn't actually get transferred over there under the old system. So this is another piece that I think is being worked on, and we're going to see is better tracking of how the grants are actually spent and whether the grantees spend the full amount they're allocated, which is also going to help us be more efficient with those dollars in terms of either reallocating them if they don't get spent, or, making recommendations that are maybe more aligned with the capacity of the groups that are requesting funding. So this is another layer, and I don't really want to get into this tonight, and it's still being worked on, but I think this is another aspect of that adds to the complexity.
Yeah, thank you. This is, I mean, this is absolutely a number of steps in the right direction. So I'm really appreciative to you and the team and everybody who's been involved with straightening this out. So I'm glad it's going to be much much clearer in the future, because this was definitely a bit of a complex conversation. And really happy to hear, that this has been paid attention to. So again, recognizing that this was an issue, coming forward that this was an issue, I really appreciate that, because I think that there could be a desire to, rake you all over the coals for this one. But the fact of the matter is, you're coming forward to say, listen, there was something going on here that was not was not true to what had been intended by the governing body. And so I really want to express my gratitude both in fixing this issue and addressing this and making this a better process for everybody involved, making it more easy for us to understand, for the public to be able to understand what is the fund balance of the, Affordable Housing Trust Fund, because we've gotten that question a lot, but also for having the bravery to come forward and really talk to us about this, because I know it's not easy. I know these things are not easy, and especially with something as valued and important and harped upon as the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, which takes, a lot of our time and energy and attention. So really, really want to express that gratitude to you for everything here. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Other counselors? Counselor Lee Garcia.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I guess I have similar concerns, but, can you, so I think the most common misconception by the public would be is that you're taking $3 million out of your own money, which is your general fund, your GRT, what we're bringing in. And I believe that the $3 million is going to be comprised of different funding sources, right? Our own money, grant money, other sources. And a lot of times grant money is earmarked for specific reasons. Is that correct?
Madam Chair and Councillor Lee Garcia, it is common for grant funds to be required to be used on specific purposes. This particular bar that we have before you this evening would come 100% from the fund balance of the general fund. In the past, we have funded the transfers into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund from other GRT funds. But this particular bar is coming 100% from the general fund balance.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. And so, again, I also have the concerns of budgeting for projections. What happens when we project something, we have it in our budget and then we overextend that, but we don't have the actual money? What happens then?
Well, Madam Chair and Councilors, Councilor Lee Garcia, there's a state statute that requires the city to operate under a balanced budget. So it's our responsibility, both mine as the finance department director, in cooperation with other city leadership and you as the governing body, to ensure that we do not overexpend our budget in aggregate.
Okay, thank you. Again, just knowing that we have guardrails that say exactly that, so, we're not overextended. With the similar concerns that Councillor Faulkner has in regards to, we are looking to budget for the money that we're expecting to bring in from this tax. And so I just err on the side of caution when we have projections, but then we don't get it. Hopefully that does come to fruition, but we'll see how that goes down the road. And I'll just state that, when we're looking at these dollars, we just, I think from my perspective, want to always see it utilized to create more units for people, whether it's, the fee in lieu of, or anything that we are doing as a tax or a fee. How do we create more obtainable units for people for the most part? And I know that it's being utilized for many other reasons, but I do see the reason for the budget adjustments. Thank you. I'll be supporting it.
Thank you. Councilor Lindell, anything else? Director Oster, anything to add? Thank you for the thoroughness. It's appreciated, and I am thrilled that Mr. Bonifer and your team have done this work. I think there was a lot of work involved in getting us to this moment, and it's very important that we have a dedicated fund and that we can track it. And I know this has been the interest of this committee and I think the governing body as a whole. So just really glad that we now have, we're on our way. So appreciate that. Appreciate you all being here tonight too, to answer questions if we had them. All right, we still have a few more things to do tonight, so we're
We have
going to move
to
on.
move-
Oh, we do have to move this.
Move to
Is there a
approve.
motion? We have a motion to approve this bar, and we have a second from Councillor Faulkner online. If we could get a roll call, please.
Certainly, Madam Chair. Counselor Cassett,
Yes.
Counselor Lindell, Counselor Faulkner,
Yes.
Counselor Garcia,
Yes.
Chair Romero Worth,
Yes.
and that motion passes.
Thank you. You are very on it. All right, we are going to item M, request for approval of amendment number 1 to General Services Contract Item number 26-0062 with IPS Group, Inc. to amend the scope of services to provide ongoing support for credit card payments made by customers on single space and monthly management system fees for single space parking meters. Increase the compensation by $543,600 for a new total amount of $1,346,607.14 including NMGRT, and to extend the term to November 21st, 2029. We have our Parking Division Director, Steve Caspin, here, and Counselor Cassett, I'm sorry, Counselor Lindell. You pulled this item, and welcome, Director.
Yes, I did. Thank you for being here. Is this a contract that we put out for bid, or is it just an extension of an existing contract?
It is an extension of a current contract that was originally signed February 2023.
Was signed when?
February 2023.
Have we looked at, it seems like, well, it doesn't seem like it is a lot of money. Is it the best deal that we can get?
So the original contract was signed before I got here. And it was done via a national purchasing cooperative alliance. So it was a competitive bid, and that is from the purchasing department. So is it the best we could do? I can't really speak to that. Regina Wheeler probably did this contract because we were between parking directors at the time. But looking at the numbers, everything seems reasonable to me. But once this contract extension is over in 2029, we'll definitely take a closer look.
I often find that these pricing agreements are not necessarily the best price. But I appreciate your opinion because I don't have enough information to have an opinion on what's reasonable. And if you say that this looks reasonable to you, I'm good with that. So, I'll move.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Do we have further discussion, questions? Not seeing any. We get a roll call.
Counselor Cassett,
Yes.
Counselor Lindell,
Yes.
Counselor Faulkner,
Yes.
Counselor Garcia,
Yes.
Chair Romero Worth.
Yes.
Madam Chair, that motion passes.
Okay, we are on to item P, request for approval to obtain construction services with National Roofing Company for maintenance and repair of a 64-year-old roof in the total amount of $330,722. We have Leroy Alvarado, our operations management supervisor here. Thank you. Sorry to have you sit through all that stuff in the front of the meeting, but appreciate you being here. Counselor Lindell, I think you pulled this item.
I did. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I'm sorry you had to wait so long. What's the size of this building? 2,000 square feet. Yeah, the roof area. And we did we put this out for a bid and
Can you turn your mic on? Sorry. Otherwise, we can hear you, but people on Zoom and sometimes in the back of the room can't hear you.
Councilman Lindell, no, I didn't. I used the statewide price agreement.
okay, I know there's lots and lots of companies on that statewide pricing, and as I was just saying, I don't always think that just because someone's on the state pricing agreement that they're our best price.
I would agree with that, but when we did this choice, we made our decisions on the complexity of the roof and the past performance.
Okay, I don't know if you know this, were they the roofing company that worked on the Fort Marcy complex?
No, I don't know that portion of it, but in the past, I think it was a few years ago, this company here did a roof for us at the facility, number 1, 2, and DAF building.
Okay.
And I went up there when we were discussing this company, and I inspected the roof, and it was done in 2010, and it still looks pretty good. So that's kind of the reason why I wanted to stick with this company.
Yeah, from the photos, this looks like it is kind of a complicated job. That a lot of roof has to come off.
Councilman Lindell, yes.
Oh.
The whole thing, the roof has 2 layers. And to stay in code, the 2 layers need to be removed and the new roof has to be put in. They can't do 3 layers.
So you said it's about 2,000 square feet?
2,250 square feet.
That's about the size of my house. Do you think it's gonna cost me $330,000 to get my roof redone?
If you had the features and the structural construction that the roof had, it probably would cost you that much.
Just
And
the-
the amount of, well, the type of membrane that was going to be installed, and how it's put in, that's how the amount is figured in.
That just seems like a crazy amount of money to me for 2,000 square feet.
The roof that was done in 2010, I think it was roughly about 560,000. And I don't know the size of the roof exactly, but it was pretty much double the size of the roof that we're doing now. That was in 2010.
I guess that's what we have to pay for it, but boy, that seems like a lot of money. If I got a estimate like that to re-roof my house, I would jump off the roof.
Unfortunately, Counselor Lindell, unfortunately, that's the type of construction that these buildings are made with. Real complicated, lots of features, and also the demo that needs to occur. There's a lot. This building's a 64-year-old building, and it has a lot of old structures protruding through that roof that needs to be repaired or removed. Vents, electrical outlets, all kinds of types of things like that that need to be removed or repaired.
Okay, I guess it's what we're gonna pay, but I would surely ask that we try to be careful and look for our very best price rather than just taking someone off that list. Because as I've said, the state pricing agreement list, as far as I'm concerned, does not give us the best prices. From whether it's a roof to vehicles. I think I could go out and negotiate better prices for vehicles than what we did on the state pricing agreement. I know Armenia could. I'm done, Chair.
Is there a motion?
To approve.
Second,
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any further questions? Seeing none, can we get a roll call?
Counselor Cassett,
Yes.
Counselor Lindell,
Yes.
Counselor Faulkner,
yes.
Counselor Garcia,
Yes.
Chair Romero Worth.
Yes.
Madam Chair, that motion passes.
Okay, we have one more item on consent and then we've got a public hearing. Thank you all for being here tonight. HH, request for approval of amendment number 2 to item number 25-0011 with the Santa Fe Animal Shelter and Humane Society, Inc. to increase the compensation by $152,289 for a new total contract amount of $430,289 for animal shelter services. We have Deputy Chief of Police Ben Valdez with us, and Counselor Lindell, you also pulled this item.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Why are we so long in getting this done?
Counselor Lindell, from what I can share, I can't go too much into the negotiations process with the contract, but based on the budget that we had for the entire contract, which is approximately $750,000 for a 4-year term, that's where the shelter started for a 1-year term. We're trying to negotiate within the budgeted amount that we have, but we also have to make sure that we maintain the services that are very critical to not only our community, but also to many animals that are left either unhoused or in dire straits. And sometimes there's litters of animals that are abandoned. So we're trying to find some middle ground right now to see how we can move forward with this one-time allocation. This will help get us at least through February. And we're hoping to try to get an agreement in place to stabilize it, because in discussions that we have had with the shelter, they want to have something that is, again, a stable contract so it's predictable and they can make the needed changes that they have. And also for us too, we would rather not pay this large amount because the sum that we're paying is in excess of what was budgeted for this annual year.
I get that part, but it costs what it costs, right? I mean, they can't, they're a nonprofit. They can't operate, they can't do this for free. I mean, they're out scratching for every dollar to keep their doors open all the time. I just, you know, for us to be trying to put the squeeze on them when I know that they're strapped, I think we're going to have to give.
Councilor Lindell, again, I have what I'm budgeted for this year. Again, I would welcome an additional allocation from leadership to be able to help meet those needs, because one thing that we have known is the shelter has been doing a lot to subsidize that cost. And there have been other things that the city has provided. For example, they pay a very minimal amount of on their lease for the land that the shelter is on. And they're pretty much our exclusive partner in this realm. But between the city and the shelter, we have to come to some sort of middle ground on the funding to make sure that we're both in a good place to provide this high level of service. And one thing I have shared with the shelter is I travel quite a bit based on my job to other places throughout the state. I've seen other communities that do not have the services that Santa Fe has, and I want to make sure that we avoid that. I think we've done a very fantastic job with the services that have been provided over the decades-long partnership that we've had with the shelter, and I would like for that to continue, but we're going to need some additional budget to make that happen.
Well, I hope that the future governing body will look at that, and what we talked about earlier, I have to make priorities. You know, I could go through all these items that we've looked at tonight, and it's millions and millions and millions of dollars. I hope that we would make a priority for trying to work with the shelter and allow them to not be subsidizing us. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So I'll move to approve on this, but I certainly hope that you would come back to the governing body and make a specific request for more monies for this, rather than just sit with a budget and try to get more out of the shelter than what they're already doing for us for the same amount of money. I would really encourage you to do that.
And Councilor, I do agree, and I've been flagging that information with my leadership to bring it forward. So again, I'm kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, and I would welcome any support for this if we're able to increase the allocation for the budget for this purpose.
Thank you.
Counselor Faulkner?
So I'm in total support of this. I mean, the question I'm about to ask is another question for legal. But I would like to ask it on the record tonight, and maybe I'm a little grumpy because I'm sick. But how is, so in Tierra Contenta, HomeWise needed a fiscal agent, and it's going to sound like these things are not connected, but they are in what I'm about to explain. And they were told by the city attorney's office that that would be violate the anti-donation clause. But in this case, we're giving money to a private entity, and that somehow isn't violating the anti-donation clause. And so my concern isn't this what we're doing tonight. I think this is awesome. But it would be nice moving forward, and hopefully with a new city attorney, when we move forward, we'll get some consistency in what is actually considered the anti-donation clause.
Madam Chair, may I add something to that context?
Sure.
Madam Chair and Councilor Faulkner, my understanding is that the city ordinance currently allows for us to work with a nonprofit until such time as the city elects to stand up and maintain their own animal shelter.
I would offer having a lot of experience with the anti-donation clause as a lobbyist who represents the private sector, that in both cases, we would not be violating the anti-donation clause. And it only irritates me, it's a little off subject, sorry, Madam Chair, in that we need housing in Tierra Contenta, and that was a bridge too far for our city attorney, but this is fine. And I agree, this is more than fine, this is great. But I hope we get some more consistency in what is, again, how the anti-donation clause applies. You can't cherry pick it. It is or it is not violating the anti-donation clause. And in both cases, we are not violating the anti-donation clause. That's all. Sorry, Madam Chair.
Other questions from the committee? Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second? We have a motion and a second to approve this item. Can we get a roll call?
Certainly, Madam Chair. Counselor Cassett,
Yes.
Counselor Lindell, Counselor Faulkner,
Yes.
Counselor Garcia,
Yes.
Chair Romero Worth,
Yes.
and Madam Chair, that motion passes.
Thank you. All right, thank you for being here, Deputy Chief. All right, we are done with our consent agenda. We do have public hearings tonight. The first one. Let's see, which one do we need the interpreter for? The first one or the second one?
Second, yeah, so we needed an interpreter for, thank you, Chair, 2008 Rosina, and we do not have one.
Right, so we'll get to that in a minute. I just wanted to make sure. So that's the first one?
Madam Chair, that's item A on the public hearing.
Okay, all right, so that's perfect. Okay, so let me just introduce this item. The public hearing we are at on the agenda is request for issuance of a cease and desist order to close Korea Spa 2008 Rosina Unit B ZCK LLC. I am not going to pronounce this right. How do you say this? Anybody know? Sakin Wei Yoon Chin are the owners. It is code enforcement case number 2025-005022, violation of SFCC 18-1.7, notice of violation, penalty, operating in a manner contrary to the public welfare. And we do have Maggie Moore at the podium, Assistant Land Use Director. We also have Frank Rubal from the City Attorney's Office. And this is the item that does not have a, that we need an interpreter who can speak Mandarin Chinese. We were not able to get that. And so we need to postpone this hearing until January. Am I correct in that?
Thank you, Chair Romero Worth. Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so before, and this is, Frank, where I think, so we just needed to introduce the item, be on it, and then we need a motion to postpone to January 26th, I believe is the first Finance Committee meeting of the new year. Am I correct in this process at this point, Frank?
Romero Worth, that is what I would recommend.
Okay, so we need a motion to postpone this item until January 26th, 2026.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second to postpone this item to a date certain that I just mentioned. Can we get, are there any questions about this? For lack of an interpreter? And if we could get a roll call, please.
Counselor Cassett,
Yes.
Counselor Lindell, Counselor Faulkner,
She might have left us. She's not feeling well.
Counselor Garcia,
Yes.
Chair Romero Worth.
Yes.
Madam Chair, that motion passes.
Okay, so that item is postponed to the next Finance Committee meeting. It'll be the first meeting of 2026. And again, we needed an interpreter to help with the folks who the cease and desist order was being applied to. So this next one, though, request for issuance of a cease and desist order to close Yang Yang Massage Pony Massage at 1225 South St. Francis Drive, Unit E, Hangzhou owner operator. This is code enforcement case number 2025-005040. Violation of SFCC 18-1.7, notice of violation penalty, operating in a manner contrary to the public welfare. On this item, we do not, I believe, have the business owner present and had no intention of being here, or are they here?
Thank you, Chair Merriworth. I do not believe they're here, and I did not know that they had any intention of being here.
Okay, and so for this one, we don't need an interpreter because they they're not here and made no request or did not express an intention to be here. As the first one said they wanted to come, and in order for them to participate would have needed an interpreter. This business has been cited, but is not coming forward to participate in these proceedings.
That is correct, Chair.
All right. So as we have done with other, we've done, I think, 2 of these now. This will be the 3rd one, and we will proceed with this one. Am I correct? Because we don't have a business owner that needs an interpreter.
That's correct, Chair.
Okay. All right. So we're going to follow the process that we followed. This is a quasi judicial hearing for us to approve the request for issuance of a cease and desist order. Where we start is members of the Finance Committee to disclose any pre-hearing communications regarding the merits of the request, and recusal if a member can't be fair and impartial. If you feel the need to recuse yourself, now would be that moment. I will just pause for a second. I don't see anybody saying they need to recuse. So what we're going to do here is we'll do a staff presentation. The business owner is allowed to make a presentation. As noted, the business owner is not present in the chamber tonight and has not been in contact with the city about participating. We'll go to public comment, questions from Finance Committee members, and closing statements can be made both by the city and the business owner if they were here, and then a motion, deliberations, and voting. So we'll start with our code enforcement staff, land use staff, to do a presentation on this request. And you have up to 10 minutes to make that presentation. And Director Maggie Moore, you are our person on the hot seat. So
Thank you so much, Chair and members of the Finance Committee. I do also want to introduce Sergeant Diana Conklin, who's here tonight, right behind me, who is available to answer any questions you might have. We are here tonight. Now we'll try to be brief and summarize the request for a cease and desist order to, close the Yang Yang or Pony Massage operating out of 1225 South St. Francis Drive, Unit E. And I don't know if can you put the presentation up on the screen? I just realized it wasn't there. I also do just want to give a note to anyone in the room or anyone who's listening that there is going to be, maybe some explicit language and information shared tonight. And if there are children or anyone who is a victim or is of sexual violence or sexual assault, they may want to not listen to my presentation. Okay. I just want to do
so
that.
we didn't redact.
I'm not going to be sharing any explicit images.
Okay, thank
But
you.
we are going to be talking of things of an explicit sexual nature.
And that can be triggering. to
And that
some
can be
people.
triggering.
Okay.
And so I just want to be clear, what we're talking about this evening. Okay.
Okay. Just as long as we're not sharing images.
We're not, no. Yeah, okay. So that is what we're here tonight. So what we require of all businesses in Santa Fe is that they obtain business license and pay the associate.
And let me just stop you.
Oh,
I think
it's
we have
not showing,
we have a
yeah.
black screen here, so let's resolve our issue here.
I think I can proceed. It's just some words on the screen. We're going to get that up for you. But what we require of all of our business.
Hold on just a
You wanna
second.
wait?
Can we at least, is he going to try to fix that?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, because I
Yeah.
was going to say, if we can't fix it, we should get rid of the black screen and go to your
Right.
picture. So maybe let's wait just 2
Lee,
minutes and see.
just getting it up there. Yeah. I can
Yeah.
shut it down. Start it again. Yep. I'm gonna forward this to our finance director. And hopefully that will solve this technical problem here.
It is Carol's last meeting, so I mean, we had to have a technical issue somewhere, or else it wouldn't be complete.
It wouldn't be complete without a technical issue. And somebody do something about the technical issues in this chambers. Because I've given a ton of presentations with this laptop. Right here.
Aha. All right.
All right, we got,
think we're in
we got something
business.
up there.
There we go.
Thank you. Wonderful. Okay, yes. So we can go to the next slide. And I just want to summarize, what our requirements are in Chapter 18 under business licenses, and that all businesses obtain licenses and pay fees, that these must be renewed annually, that businesses must not operate in a manner that is contrary to our public welfare. We also require compliance with applicable state laws. We do this for cannabis businesses, for daycare centers, for restaurants, and for massage parlors. That violations of our rules must be heard by the Finance Committee at an enforcement hearing, and our method of enforcement is a cease and desist order. I also want to highlight the state requirements. The New Mexico Massage Therapy Act requires that those be individuals who provide or offer massage be licensed by the state to do so, that individuals not use the title of massage therapist unless they are licensed by the state, that a license is not transferable to another individual, an unlicensed individual, and the licenses must be posted at the principal place of business and listed in your advertisements as well. So we first heard about Pony Massage. We have been coordinating with the Santa Fe Police Department on these efforts around human trafficking and illicit massage parlors. And they reported over the summer that there had been a criminal complaint against this operation for a kind of a report of prostitution or unwanted sexual contact. And Sergeant Conklin can, hopefully answer any of your questions about that. But essentially, a citizen, a patron, entered the establishment expecting to get a massage and was offered and basically assaulted and offered sexual services. And so we, took that information and conducted an inspection of the property on June 27th. I've outlined the results of that inspection in the memo that were included for you all. Essentially, there was an unlicensed individual present at the time of the inspection. They did have a business license, but they were, operating without licensed massage therapists present. And so we followed up and issued a notice of violation. We visited again in November, and observed much of the same circumstances at that inspection. And so we issued the notice of violation on November 7th, asking the business to come into compliance, and we invited them to come here tonight to this public hearing to, express to you all why they should remain open. And again, we visited last week on Friday, and there wasn't the same unlicensed individual present at the business. So we kind of talked about this in the notice of violation. They were given a compliance date of November 26th. We have inspected the property again and found them to be out of compliance. So we are requesting the cease and desist order this evening. I wanted to get into a little bit of the evidence around why they are operating in a manner contrary to the public welfare. As is typical of these illicit massage parlors, a lot of them do have business licenses. Some of them may even be able to produce, a massage license of someone, but not necessarily the people who are present at the massage parlor during business. And then what we also find is that they are advertising online in places for illicit sexual activities. And so this is some of the information that I wanted to share with you tonight. There was some of these advertisements posted online for you, and some of that information was redacted to protect victims and, of potential human trafficking. But I wanted to just highlight some other additional advertisements, and there's a lot of online forums and message boards that highlight what is actually happening behind the closed and locked doors of these establishments. And so that is some of what I wanted to bring forward to you tonight. These are both from the website eccie.net. I was only able to access these on the private web viewing function of my phone. And it was by using the advertised phone number of this business, which is the 505-460-9448. This is the method by which they advertise, out to the world for their services. And, so these, I would just highlight, I guess, the activities section here. So there's a lot of code and a lot of jargon that I had to do research on. FBSM, that means full body sensual massage. It's kind of code for what we would expect that to mean, not a traditional licensed massage. CBJ, this refers to oral sex. Basically, the C means covered or a protected oral sex. We also, see Massage Plus, that's code for the happy ending that we see, type of things. Again, you see the address here. These are reviews of encounters that occurred at this business, at this property. The dates are all within this calendar year. This one's from February. We have June. We have I think the ones on the previous slide were May, September. So in addition to the very brave, report that we received from the Santa Fe Police Department of an individual who, went into this establishment expecting to get a legitimate massage and ended up being assaulted, we have a kind of continuous record online of these activities that are taking place here. So, we can, a lot of these other terms, I don't need to get into necessarily unless you'd like to know, but they all kind of reference specific sexual acts that they, received for compensation here at these establishments. Here's another one just from a couple weeks ago, November 20th. And the name Anna kind of comes up. They're pseudonyms. I generally understand, not the real names of the individuals. But, we can see that there's a pattern of continual activity here. and not legitimate massage activity. So to kind of summarize, I want to bring back this table. This was in your staff report, and this is just a comparison of what we look for when we're investigating these types of operations. So we have legitimate massage therapy businesses. We have many qualified massage therapists that operate in the city of Santa Fe. And we also have the illicit sex and human trafficking businesses that masquerade as massage therapy businesses. They cheat on requirements to look legit. They advertise to people looking for sex. I think I have, demonstrated, evidence of that. There is unlicensed personnel on the property. We certainly have observed that when we've conducted our inspections. There are no records or treatments of clients. And this is just generally, these are general examples. There are long hours, which we do observe 7 days a week, 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. We often, one of the components of these businesses is that these women often live on site. So they're there 24 hours a day, often accepting clients, whenever that happens. These businesses lock their doors. So it is sometimes very difficult for our staff to gain access and actually do the inspections. But they do lock doors to conceal the activities and screen, who is coming into the property. And they generally advertise at lower than market rates for services, for their massages. And these, I think, yeah, so those are things. Obviously, I think a lot of us understand what a legitimate massage therapy business looks like. There's professional training, they're following state laws, they're posting their licenses in their place of business. They advertise for legitimate health purposes. They have licensed massage therapists. There's regular business record keeping and record of payments to the staff, normal business hours and operations, unlocked doors, what you would normally expect from a legitimate business. And so that's all I have for you tonight, and I'll stand for questions. Have any? Thank you.
Okay, at this point, we would go to the business owner for an opening statement and sworn witness testimony. I do not see the business owner in the chambers, and we don't have anybody online, right?
No, Madam Chair, there is nobody online.
Okay, so we do not have the business owner present tonight.
Madam Chair, actually, we do have somebody present online as an attendee.
Okay, is that person affiliated with this?
That is not an attendee. That's my boss.
Ah, okay. All right, so at this point, if the business owner were here, they would give an opening statement, sworn testimony, and then the next step would be, if desired, questions of staff. They could question the staff about any of the information from the staff report. Since we do not have a business owner, we can't do either of those steps. We will now go to the public for sworn public comment. Is there anybody here who would like to make sworn public comment on the case that's in front of us? And I, again, don't see anybody in the chamber, and we don't have anybody online still, correct? That isn't an official somebody? Okay, and then from there, we go to the Finance Committee, questions of staff, parties, witnesses, and the public. Anyone testifying to facts outside the record must be sworn. So, Finance Committee, if you have questions at this point, now would be the time to ask them. Not seeing anybody wave at me. Can you put your slide back up there about the different aspects of legitimate versus not legitimate? actually, I remember the question. You don't need to find it now. There was you said that I think that one of them, lower than market rates for services. Do you have any information on that with regard to this particular business?
Thank you, Chair. I don't have that in front of me right now, but that is a general observable trait of these, or, these operations. So, but I can,
Okay, so
Probably Google it.
basically, this one, the reason why you're seeking a cease and desist order for this one is you have found advertisements that advertising to people looking for sex. So that's one of the criteria. You have visited the property and there are people posing as massage therapists who do not have massage therapist licenses, correct?
that is correct, yeah.
Okay. And you were not, when you visited, you were not shown any records of the treatments or the clientele that would have received those treatments.
That is correct, yeah.
And I think when you visited, you have encountered locked doors. But you did also say that you gained access. Was there a time when you weren't able to access, or were the doors just generally locked and then they had to unlock them to let you in? Explain
Right,
that
yes,
for me.
Yeah, Chair, the latter. So the doors are locked, and at this particular address, they have allowed us onto the property
Okay.
or inside the business after we've knocked.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's not general, like most businesses, when they're open, you can come in.
walk it,
You,
yeah.
okay. All right. So and then lower than market rates, you don't know anything about that, but you do have some of the criteria here that would indicate this is not a legitimate massage business. Did I capture the things that you're citing?
Yes, Chair. Yeah, thank you for that. I think our main, goal, and certainly with the additional tip, if you will, or, criminal complaint from the individual who didn't want to come here tonight, to testify for understandable reasons, but did, make that call and did report this to the police. I understand from Sergeant Conklin that, there wasn't any way to follow through with that criminal, investigation, because the complainant didn't want to pursue any criminal charges, but wanted it to be known. And I think so part of, what does it mean to have a business that operates in a manner not contrary to the public welfare? I think that is evident there when, we license businesses for what the public can anticipate when they walk through the door. And, that duty of care here, I believe, has not been met with this business model. It would stand to right that if one individual had this experience, others have and maybe not made the complaint, or some may in the future if we allow this business to continue to operate.
Okay.
And so I think that is the evidence that I've presented is enough, hopefully, that you can see that this is not a legitimate massage business, but an illicit sexual business masquerading as a massage business. And, our requirements for business licensing are quite low. So there's a very low bar for folks to come in and get a business license. Generally, we are trying to change that specifically for this type of business to ensure that when we license massage therapy businesses, that that the public has confidence in that is a legitimate business. Similarly to restaurants, when we require licenses for food handling and licenses from the state, and for cannabis manufacturers and for daycare centers, we want to make sure that those businesses are licensed and operating according to all the regulations that are required. So maybe that was a little more than you wanted, but
Okay, well, it
you
did
know,
bring up another one, which is that they did not have a business license with the city. So that's another
They have in the past.
Okay,
And yeah, this particular one has in the past, and theirs expires in January. But my,
Okay, so-
ask is that that not be the only factor we consider here.
okay.
Is that, in addition to acquiring a license, they should operate in a manner that is not contrary to the public welfare. And everything that I can find is that they are.
Suggests
operating-
otherwise. Yeah, got
suggests
it.
Otherwise, yeah.
Got it. I just have one question for Frank from the city attorney's office. So there was just testimony to the fact that the officer who is present with us tonight could not pursue the criminal complaint because the complainant did not want to pursue the charges. Do I need to have that presented in the record directly from the officer who's here tonight, or is it okay that Director Moore provided that information?
If you would, Chair Romero Worth, if you would accept Director Moore's statement as somewhat of an offer of proof, and the fact that this is essentially untested, that the other party is, the defending party is here to offer anything to the contrary, I would accept.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we didn't need to hear it directly from the officer who has made time to be with us, so. All right, thank you. Okay, any other questions from the committee? From this place, after questions from the Finance Committee, the business owner would again have an opportunity to ask additional questions if new evidence had been brought forward in the questioning. Again, the business owner is not here, does not seem, as Frank says, contesting these proceedings. So then the next step after that is that the staff, if appropriate, responds to the business owner's submitted evidence and or testimony. Again, since we don't have a business owner, that step won't be necessary. And at this point, we would go to a closing statement from the business owner, who again is not here, not contesting these proceedings. And from there, we'll go back to me, the presiding officer, to close the public hearing. And let's see, so you as staff don't get a closing argument, but you kind of did that already, because in response to my questions. So now we go back to the Finance Committee to make a motion, and the member making the motion should state the member's reasoning for the motion. And I believe you need that so that you can do findings of fact and conclusions of law to support us, whatever action we take. Is that correct?
Yes, Chair, that is correct.
All right. So does anybody want to make a motion on the committee?
I will move to approve staff's recommendation based on the evidence that AD Moore has been able to provide regarding the advertising and the experiences that people have shared online, as well as the inconsistent business practices practices that are not consistent with a legitimate massage therapy center, as opposed to them being consistent with a illicit massage parlor. Does that work for findings of fact? Good there.
We have a motion and a second. Is there discussion or deliberation? Not seeing any. So then we would go to a roll call vote on the motion.
Certainly, Madam Chair. Counselor Cassett,
Yes.
Counselor Lindell, Counselor Garcia,
Yes.
Chair Romero Worth.
Yes.
Madam Chair, that motion passes.
Okay. And at that point, we, well, this case then is, we've taken action on it, correct?
For Mayor Worth, I brought the cease and desist order for the chair to sign. So,
Okay.
so served on may I approach or?
Can we, can we just wrap this up and then we'll take care of the paperwork? Because I think we're pretty much done. You won't have to stay much longer. All right, so let me get to the end of my agenda. That is the end of our public hearings for tonight. We will go now to matters from staff.
Madam Chair, just very quickly, I wanted to say thank you to the committee and to the other folks here in the room and on Zoom for the opportunity to serve the city and work with you over the last 3.5 years. This is my last meeting as Finance Director for the City of Santa Fe, and it's been an honor and a pleasure to work with all of you. I am really going to miss all of you, like I said earlier, and I just wanted to thank you very much for your stalwart support despite some really difficult circumstances over the last couple of years. And when I look back to where we were from where we are today, I am so incredibly proud of the progress we've made. And I just want to express my gratitude to each of you for your support along the way.
Thank you. And there we go to matters from the committee. Councilor Lindell.
Thank you, Chair. Emily, I usually direct you as Director Oster, but I'm going to call you Emily tonight. Boy, what a difference you made for the city. And I just wish you the very, very best. I hope you never have another job where you have to have an iPhone with a countdown on it. Ever. You were terrific. You stood tall under some very, very, very pointed and at times unfair questioning. And you cleaned up a mess that you didn't make. That's really something. You fixed something you didn't break. That's a terrific thing to do, and you did it with a nice attitude. As to this finance committee, this has been a terrific committee. I've learned a lot every year. Carol Romero Worth, you've been a absolutely unbelievably good chair. Just the best we could have ever wished for. Jamie, nothing gets past you. And that's your job now. Lee, keep asking the questions. Pilar, I think, has taken off, but we were a good finance committee. And I've put in my 304 meetings and I'm DUN done. Thank you. It's better than being DED dead.
That's true. Councilor Cassett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Emily, I cannot express my gratitude enough for everything you have done for the city, for this department, for, as you know, Sig mentioned, fixing something you didn't break. And it was something that was really entrenched. I mean, years and years of challenges, and you've really put us on a right track. So I really appreciate all of your work. We have the opportunity to continue to jump off from it, but we could not get there without you and your incredible team. So this is a big loss for us. I am going to miss you so much. And I really do want to wish you the best in whatever comes next. So thank you. I don't know, how am I ever going to say anything to you too? Coming into this role, I had never been in policy before. I'd never been in government before. I'd never been in politics before. And both of you have just been incredible mentors to me. Just absolutely incredible mentors. And the 6 years has been I love this work so much. And I could not be where I am without you two. And I am going to miss you two so much. And I will not be leaving you alone at all. And you both know that. But I really, really, really am going to miss having you both on this dais. And I've learned so much, and I have gained so much confidence from both of you believing in me and pushing me, and um, I cannot express my gratitude enough, and I don't think you two fully understand how much you mean to me. These were a tough 6 years. I went through huge life changes. And I think some of those nights that I spent, 2.5 hours on the phone, a lot of it was, I needed that. I needed that in my life, and you both provided that so much. Thank you for everything you've given to this community. I don't even know if the city of Santa Fe understands how incredible of leaders you both are, and big shoes to fill, but you will always be missed. So thank you both so much.
Counselor Lee Garcia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Starting off with Director Oster, I think I may have been one of the ones that was a little bit tough at the beginning when you came on. All out of the love for us getting back on track. And I definitely over the years, the last few years have grown to understand and know and where you have brought in the department, I really do appreciate that. There's always going to be work to be done. There's always going to be things that we didn't finish or can't get to, but you have brought us to a point where, we have to continue. And that'll go into the future through a new governing body. So thank you and kudos to you. Best wishes to you in your future endeavors. To Councilor Lindell and Councilor Romero Worth, I think it's been stated many times that whether we agree or disagree on any item, that we at least have that conversation. We have it respectfully. And at the end of the day, we still have to go forth and make whatever decisions that we have. But I think that in having good taste of either debate or discussions or agree to disagree, I think we've done that respectfully. And I do appreciate your time that you've given to this city because it's not easy to be in the public eye, whether you support something or you carry something forward that the community wants or needs or believes in. It's challenging because you're never going to please every single person. But I do appreciate your leadership up here. I have learned quite a lot about the city's finances. Obviously, I understand more private business finances than I do city. So, but they're very relative. And if we talk about how we balance, how we budget, how we look to things in the future, even our performance indicators, our objectives, things of that nature, it's all relative. And so I think we have a lot of more work to be done, but we'll see what that carries forth in the next generation of finance committee. So thank you so much for your dedication to the city.
Thank you. I think I've said this before, Director Oster. And I think it was a friend of yours who suggested this, but thank you for being willing to run into buildings that were on fire. Because we were definitely on fire, and you came in and were willing to take charge of a building that was on fire. And I think, the recognition tonight from your team, which you have built, you built this team. And that was your leadership. And I can remember going to one of the potlucks that you started with your group, and the team building work that you were doing with them to help them have fun and to appreciate each other. And then to hear, how your leadership has the statement Armenia read about how you have built a collaborative group and listened and put what you've heard into into play in your work, in your department, and in the team that you have built. I just think there's no greater compliment than that. And I saw it in action. I saw it when it was raw and new. And to be here tonight to see so many of the finance department folks come out to wish you well. And I certainly wish you well. It's been my privilege to work with you. I have learned a lot. You are very knowledgeable, very well credentialed, and I wish you the best in your next endeavors. And thank you for making some time to, as Counselor Lindell says, clean up a mess that you didn't make and being willing to do it. I think we're very grateful. So thank you. This is my last meeting, and I thank you all for the kind words and the hard work. I do think this was a very good committee. It was a high-functioning committee, a collaborative committee. I completely agree with Councilor Lee Garcia, that, you know, we didn't always agree, but you know, we still have fun, we still laugh, we still, you know, talk about our nights and the fact that, you know, we're up here eating chocolate because we missed dinner. And, you know, there's a good camaraderie that I think is really important. And I just appreciate having that, especially given the hours that we have put in to this committee, to this work, and also your different perspectives. You all see a different line in the stuff that comes in front of us, and I've learned from you, and I've learned from the line of questioning that you've brought forward from those different perspectives. So I will miss this group. I will miss this role, and I'll miss the work at the city. This is, as Councilor Cassidy has said, I really have loved these years, this work, and the things we've been able to do. So it is hard to leave. But I wish everyone well who continues forward, and there will be new members of this committee, and they'll be the new stewards, and they will work hard as well to do the work of the city. So I wish everybody who comes to fill these chairs the best, and I just want to thank all of you for your service, and thank you to the staff that's in the chamber tonight too, and for all the work that you're doing. So with that, I think we're at the end of our agenda, right? The next meeting of this committee will be Monday, January 26th. It will have a new chair and it will have new members. And with that, it's been my honor, and we are adjourned.